I sat at the dining table, fork halfway to my mouth, when my mother placed her hand on a manila folder and looked me straight in the eye. Andrew, your father and I have updated our will. Everything goes to your brother and sister. You're not getting a single cent. The room went silent. I set down my silverware slowly, feeling 20 years of being the responsible son evaporate. All right, I said, forcing a smile. Then don't expect a dime from me either. I stood up. That's when the nightmare began. The chair scraped against the hardwood floor as I pushed back from the table. My father cleared his throat but said nothing. My younger brother Travis smirked into his wine glass. My sister Diane studied her plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Nobody tried to stop me as I walked toward the front door. The cool evening air hit my face as I stepped outside. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, exactly. More like the feeling you get when the ground suddenly isn't where you thought it was. I had spent 35 years being the son they could count on. The one who helped with their bills when Dad's hardware store struggled. The one who loaned Travis money for his real estate license. The one who paid for Diane's marketing certification when she was between jobs. And this was my reward. A manila folder and a declaration that I meant nothing. I got into my car and just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. Travis. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Don't take it personally, bro. His voice had that casual, satisfied tone that made my jaw clench. Mom and Dad just think you're doing well enough without their help. You've got your business, your fancy apartment. They want to help the ones who need it. I wanted to say 1,000 things. Instead, I just hung up. The drive home to my apartment took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of replaying that dinner in my head. The way Mom had practiced that speech. The way Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. The way my siblings had clearly known this was coming. I had always been the responsible one. After college, while Travis bounced between sales jobs and Diane racked up credit card debt on a lifestyle she couldn't afford, I worked 80-hour weeks building my financial consulting firm from scratch. 8 years of sacrifice, of missed vacations, of relationships that fell apart because I was always working. But I had built something. A small firm with a solid reputation, good clients, steady income. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Stable. Or so I thought. I pulled into my apartment complex and found someone waiting by the entrance. Greg, my business partner for the last 4 years. The guy I trusted to handle client relations while I focused on the actual consulting work. He looked nervous, kept shifting his weight from foot to foot. Andrew, we need to talk. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. What's wrong? Can we go inside? We rode the elevator in silence. Inside my apartment, Greg wouldn't sit down. He paced near my window, looking out at the city lights. Just tell me, I said. 3 months ago, Travis and Diane approached me. The words came out in a rush. They offered me $50,000. My brain struggled to process what he was saying. $50,000 to do what? Greg finally looked at me. To slowly redirect your biggest clients to a competitor. To plant doubts about your work. To sabotage the business from the inside. The room tilted. You're joking. I wish I was. He pulled out his phone, showed me bank statements. A transfer for $50,000 from an account in Travis's name. I took the money, Andrew. I've been moving clients away for 3 months. That's why the revenue dropped. That's why we lost Morrison Industries, the Caldwell Group, Patterson Financial. 60% of our client base. Gone. They told me you'd be fine, Greg continued, his voice breaking. They said you were getting a huge inheritance. That you were set for life. That this was just, I don't know, evening things out between siblings. Understanding crashed over me like cold water. They planned this. They destroyed my business while convincing our parents I was wealthy and didn't need help. Greg nodded miserably. I didn't realize what they were really doing until today. When I heard about the will thing through the family grapevine, that's when I understood. They were setting you up. Get out. Andrew, I'm sorry. I'll testify. I'll tell people what they did. I'll get out of my apartment. Now, after he left, I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and checked the business accounts. The numbers were worse than I thought. Way worse. With 60% of our clients gone, We had maybe 3 months of operating capital left. 3 months before the whole thing collapsed. My phone rang. Dad. Andrew. We need to talk about your reaction tonight. That was very disrespectful to your mother. Dad, listen to me. Travis and Diane paid my business partner to sabotage my company. They destroyed my income so they could tell you I was wealthy and didn't need the inheritance. Silence. Then, that's a very serious accusation. It's true. I have proof. Greg just confessed everything. Andrew. Dad's voice was disappointed, tired. Travis warned us you'd try something like this. He said you'd make excuses, blame others. He said you've been struggling with accepting responsibility for your choices. My brother had already poisoned the well, planted the narrative before I even knew I needed to defend myself. This isn't an excuse, Dad. This is fraud. They committed actual fraud. I think you need some time to cool down. Don't call here again until you're ready to apologize to your mother. She's very upset. He hung up. I sat there in the dark, understanding slowly spreading through me like ice water. My siblings had played a long game, months of planning, destroying my business while simultaneously destroying my credibility with our parents. By the time I figured out what was happening, nobody would believe me. The phone buzzed again. A text from Diane. Travis told me what you said to Dad. Really, Andrew? You're going to blame us for your business problems? That's low. Even for you. Even for me. Like I was the family problem. The difficult one. I checked my email. 3 clients had sent termination notices that day. 3 more pieces of my business, gone. The nightmare had begun at that dinner table. But I was only just starting to understand how deep it went. 2 weeks crawled by like months. I worked 18-hour days trying to save what was left of my business. Called former clients, offered discounts, promised better service. Most wouldn't even take my calls. The ones who did gave vague excuses about going in a different direction or budget constraints. But I could hear it in their voices. Someone had poisoned them against me. Greg's sabotage had been subtle but effective. Quiet comments about irregularities in my work. Suggestions that maybe I was stretched too thin or not as detail-oriented as I used to be. Nothing actionable. Nothing you could point to. Just enough doubt to make people uncomfortable. Then the lawsuit arrived. Greg was suing me for $100,000. Unpaid wages and hostile work environment, the papers said. The claims were absurd. I had paid him exactly what our partnership agreement specified. And hostile work environment? The guy had been sabotaging me for months. But absurd didn't matter. The lawsuit was real, and it would cost real money to fight. I called a lawyer. Listened to her explain that even though the claims were baseless, I'd need to respond. File counterclaims. Go through discovery. The retainer alone was $15,000. I paid it. Maxed out 1 credit card. Told myself it would be worth it when the truth came out. During discovery, we found Greg's evidence. Detailed records of my supposed misconduct. Times I allegedly yelled at him in front of clients. Emails where I supposedly threatened his job. Performance reviews where I criticized his work unfairly. All fabricated. But sophisticated forgeries. Dates, times, details that almost made sense. This is going to be harder than I thought, my lawyer said. He's built a paper trail. I decided to fight fire with fire. Hired a private investigator to trace the $50,000 from Travis to Greg. Prove the conspiracy. $10,000 I didn't have. Charged to another credit card. The investigator was good. Found the money trail in a week. Bank transfers from Travis to Greg. Dated exactly 3 months before the client exodus began. But he found something else too. Something worse. Mr. Andrew, you need to see this. He spread documents across my coffee table. Bank statements with my name on them. Account numbers I didn't recognize. Transactions showing money moving from client accounts to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. $200,000 over 6 months. I never opened these accounts, I said. I've never moved client money anywhere. I know. They're forgeries. Very good ones. He pointed to signatures. That's your signature. But it's been digitally copied from other documents and pasted onto these. The account numbers are real, but they trace back to shell companies registered in Delaware. Dead ends. My hands were shaking. Travis and Diane did this. Probably. Someone with resources and planning. If anyone reports this to the authorities, you're looking at criminal charges for embezzlement. Even though it's fake, proving it's fake will take time and money you don't have. That night, Travis called. First time we'd spoken since the dinner. "How's business, brother?" His voice was light, cheerful. "What do you want, Travis?" "Just checking in. Heard you hired a lawyer. That's expensive. Heard you hired a private investigator, too. Also expensive." He paused. "Found anything interesting?" He knew exactly what the investigator had found, because he'd created it. "I found the money you paid, Greg. I found the fake embezzlement records. I found everything. Try to prove it." His voice hardened. "Those documents look real because they are real. Real enough that if the state regulatory board sees them, if the police see them, you'll be explaining yourself from a jail cell. By the time you prove they're forgeries, if you even can, you'll be bankrupt and possibly in prison. What do you want?" "Sign away any future claim to Mom and Dad's estate. Publicly apologize to the family for your accusations. Admit you've been struggling and made some bad choices. Do that, and all of this goes away. The lawsuit, the evidence, everything. No, think about it. You've got nothing left to lose except your freedom." He hung up. The next morning, my business bank accounts were frozen. Someone had filed a complaint with the state regulatory board for financial consultants, cited the fake embezzlement evidence, claimed I was a danger to clients. I couldn't pay my 3 remaining employees, couldn't pay rent on the office space, couldn't pay anything. By the end of the week, all 3 employees quit, found jobs elsewhere. I didn't blame them. I closed the office. 8 years of work, gone. My business partner lawsuit was still pending, draining my resources on legal fees. My reputation in the industry was destroyed. Word spread fast in a small professional community. Nobody would hire someone under investigation for embezzlement. I sat in my empty office on the last day, looking at the bare walls where my degrees used to hang. My certifications. 8 years of 80-hour weeks. 8 years of sacrificing everything else in my life to build something I was proud of. My phone buzzed. "Mom, your father and I heard about your business closing. Maybe this is a sign you need to make some changes in your life. Pride comes before a fall, Andrew." They actually thought this was my fault, my failure. They had no idea their other children had orchestrated the entire thing. I drove home to my apartment, my savings depleted. $30,000 in credit card debt from legal fees and investigation costs. No income and no prospects. The nightmare wasn't ending. It was just beginning. 1 month after the dinner, 4 weeks since my world started unraveling, I had applied for 73 jobs. Positions in financial consulting, accounting, even entry-level analyst roles. My resume should have opened doors. 8 years running my own firm. A track record of successful client relationships, relevant certifications, but the financial consulting world is small. Everyone talks. And everyone had heard about the regulatory investigation into Andrew the embezzler. Nobody would hire me. I started applying for jobs outside my field. Retail management, administrative assistant positions, anything that paid enough to cover rent and debt payments. Still nothing. Somehow, the story had spread beyond my industry. My girlfriend Samantha was trying to be supportive. She worked as a nurse at County General, practical and caring. We'd been together for 3 years, talked about marriage, about buying a house together, about building a future. But the stress was eating at us. I could see it in her eyes when she came home from 12-hour shifts and found me on the couch, still in sweatpants, having accomplished nothing but sending more job applications into the void. "Maybe you should take a break from the job search for a few days," she suggested gently. "Focus on your mental health. This has been traumatic. I can't afford a break. We can't afford a break. We'll figure it out. We always do." But I could hear the strain in her voice. My best friend since college, Derek, called and invited me to lunch, said he wanted to help. Derek ran a successful marketing agency. I thought maybe he was offering me a job. I should have known better. We met at a restaurant downtown. Derek was already seated when I arrived, looking uncomfortable in a way I'd never seen before. "Thanks for coming," he said. "Of course. What's up?" He didn't meet my eyes. I talked to Travis. My appetite vanished. "You what?" "He reached out to me last week. Said he was worried about you. Said there were some things I should know." "Derek, whatever he told you." "He showed me documents, Andrew." Derek's voice was quiet but firm. "Bank statements, account transfers, your signature. Did you really steal from your clients?" The restaurant suddenly felt too hot, too crowded. "Those documents are forgeries. Travis created them to destroy me." "He said you'd say that." "Of course he did. Because he planned this whole thing." Derek shook his head. "I saw the signatures, man. They looked real. And it's not just Travis. He showed me emails from Greg, your business partner. Evidence from multiple sources. Greg was paid $50,000 by Travis to sabotage my business and lie about me. Do you hear yourself?" Derek leaned forward. "Everyone is lying except you? Your brother, your business partner, multiple clients? Maybe, just maybe, you need to consider that you're the problem here. You've known me for 15 years. You really think I'm capable of stealing from clients? I think people do desperate things when they're struggling financially. Travis said your business was failing long before any of this. Said you've been making bad decisions for months. My business was fine until Travis paid Greg to destroy it." Derek stood up. "I can't do this. I have my own reputation to protect. If people think I'm associated with someone under investigation for fraud, it could hurt my business." He pulled out his wallet, dropped 2 20s on the table. "I'm sorry, Andrew. I really am. But I can't be part of this." He left me sitting there alone. I stared at the money on the table. Not even enough to cover the bill he'd ordered. I paid the difference and walked out into the bright afternoon sun, feeling completely hollow. Travis had been busy, sending documents to my friends, planting the narrative, isolating me. When I got home, Samantha was there. In the middle of the day, when she should have been at work. She was packing a suitcase. "Sam?" She looked up, and I saw she'd been crying. "I can't do this anymore." "Can't do what?" "This. Us. The constant stress. The drama with your family. The money problems. I'm looking for work. It's just taking time because of the false allegations." "Andrew, stop." Her voice cracked. "Just stop. Your sister called me." "Of course she did. Diane told me everything. About how you've always been unstable. About the family problems you've had for years. About how you're lying about being sabotaged because you can't accept responsibility for your failures. And you believed her. She offered to help me. Said if I needed anything, if I needed to get away safely, she'd support me." "Get away safely?" "Sam, she's making me sound dangerous." "Are you?" She zipped the suitcase. "Because the man I'm looking at right now, angry and paranoid and blaming everyone else, I don't recognize him." On the counter, I spotted a bank statement. Not ours. Hers. With a recent deposit for $20,000. "They paid you." She followed my gaze. "That's none of your business. My sister paid you $20,000 to leave me and tell people I'm dangerous. You're being paranoid again. That money is from my aunt. An inheritance. Your aunt died 4 years ago, Sam. I was at the funeral." Her face flushed. "Fine. Yes. Diane gave me money. She said it was to help me start over, to get away from a toxic situation. The situation she created." "No, Andrew. The situation you created by lying and stealing and refusing to take responsibility." She grabbed her suitcase. "I'm taking half of our joint savings account. It's legally mine. Don't try to stop me. $12,000. Our emergency fund. Our down payment savings for the house we'd talked about buying." She took the TV we'd bought together, the coffee table her parents gave us, the good cookware, loading it all into her car while I stood there, too stunned to move. "I loved you," I said. "I loved who I thought you were. Turns out I didn't know you at all." She drove away. 3 years of building a life together, gone in an afternoon. I went back inside the apartment that suddenly felt enormous and empty. Sat on the floor because she'd taken the couch. The landlord's notice was taped to my door. The building was going condo. If I wanted to stay, I'd need to buy my unit, $75,000. Or I could leave in 30 days. My car made a horrible grinding noise when I tried to start it that evening. The mechanic quoted $2,000 in repairs. Brakes, transmission work, something wrong with the engine. I had $800 in my personal account. The joint account was cleaned out. My credit cards were maxed. Mom called that night. We heard about Samantha leaving. Diane told us. Of course she did. Maybe you should think about why everyone in your life is walking away, Andrew. What's the common denominator? A conspiracy orchestrated by my siblings? That's what I'm talking about. You can't accept responsibility for anything. Your failed business, your failed relationship, your failed friendships. It's always someone else's fault. She sighed. Don't call here again until you're ready to be honest with yourself and apologize to this family. She hung up. I sat alone in my empty apartment. No girlfriend, no best friend, no family who believed me, no job, no money, no car that worked, and an eviction notice counting down 30 days. The nightmare kept getting worse. 2 months since the dinner. 8 weeks of freefall. I'd moved into a motel 6 blocks from my old apartment. $40 per night. The kind of place where you didn't ask questions about your neighbors, and you kept your valuables in your car. Except my car barely ran. I'd managed to scrape together enough for the absolute minimum repairs to keep it moving. It sounded like a dying animal, but it moved. I was driving for a rideshare service. 10, 12 hours a day, making maybe $300 a week after gas and the company's cut. Barely enough for the motel and instant noodles from the dollar store. I'd lost 20 pounds. Couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten 2 meals in one day. Sleep came in fits and starts, interrupted by anxiety and the thin walls of the motel. I hadn't spoken to my family in 3 weeks. Hadn't tried. What was the point? The job applications had stopped. I'd given up pretending I'd ever work in my field again. I was driving a passenger to the airport when my chest started hurting. Sharp, stabbing pain that made me gasp. My left arm tingled. Dizziness washed over me in waves. You okay, man? The passenger asked. Fine. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. The pain got worse. My vision blurred. I pulled over onto the shoulder of the highway, hazard lights on. I think you need a hospital, the passenger said. Can't afford it. Dude, I think you're having a heart attack. I was 35 years old. Too young for a heart attack. But the pain was real and getting worse. The passenger called an ambulance. I was too weak to argue. The emergency room was bright and loud and overwhelming. Doctors asking questions I could barely process. Tests and monitors and needles. Not a heart attack, the cardiologist told me hours later. Stress-induced arrhythmia. Your heart rhythm is dangerously irregular, combined with severely elevated blood pressure. Mr. Andrew, your stress levels are life-threatening. So what do I do? Reduce stress. Medication. Lifestyle changes. Therapy. Regular monitoring. He handed me prescriptions. These are critical. Don't skip doses. I looked at the prescriptions. 3 different medications. $300 per month without insurance. I hadn't had insurance since my business closed. I can't afford these. The doctor's expression was sympathetic but firm. Then your condition will worsen. This isn't optional. They kept me overnight for observation. Monitors beeping, nurses checking vitals every few hours. I lay in that hospital bed staring at the ceiling, calculating costs in my head. $18,000 for the ER visit, the tests, the overnight stay. $18,000 I absolutely did not have. The next afternoon, I had visitors. Travis and Diane walked into my hospital room like they owned it. Travis held a folder. Diane carried a sympathetic expression that didn't reach her eyes. You look terrible, brother, Travis said, settling into the chair beside my bed. This could all end, you know. Get out. Just hear us out. Diane moved to the foot of the bed. We brought papers. A simple agreement. Travis opened the folder. You sign away any future claim to Mom and Dad's estate. You agree not to contest the will. And you issue a public statement taking responsibility for your business failures and personal problems. In exchange? I knew there'd be an exchange. There always was. We pay your hospital bill, all $18,000. Plus we give you $10,000 cash to get back on your feet. And the embezzlement thing? We tell people it was a misunderstanding, Diane said. Clean your name. $28,000. Enough to pay the hospital, pay off some debt, maybe get a new start somewhere else. Somewhere my siblings' reach didn't extend. I almost said yes. Then I thought about what I'd be signing. An admission that they'd won, that they'd successfully destroyed my life, stolen my inheritance, and broken me completely. My parents' estate was worth roughly $2 million. The house, Dad's investment accounts, Mom's retirement savings. Split 3 ways would be about $660,000 each. But by cutting me out, Travis and Diane each got $1 million. $1 million each. That's what my destruction was worth to them. I'd rather die broke than let you win, I said. Travis stood up. The sympathy vanished from both their faces. Suit yourself. Enjoy the medical debt. They left the paperwork on my bedside table. Walked out without another word. A nurse discharged me the next day with prescriptions I couldn't afford and instructions I couldn't follow. Told me to reduce stress, get regular checkups, maintain healthy lifestyle. I laughed. Actually laughed. The nurse looked concerned. Sir, are you all right? Never better. I took a taxi back to the motel because my car had been towed from the highway. Unpaid parking tickets, they said. $600 to get it back. I had $87 in my bank account. That night, I sat on the scratchy motel bed and cried for the first time since this started. Really cried. Shoulders shaking, breath coming in gasps, the whole humiliating breakdown. Nobody was coming to save me. My family had abandoned me. My friends didn't believe me. The woman I loved had taken money to leave me. The system that was supposed to protect people like me was instead threatening me with criminal charges for crimes I didn't commit. I was 35 years old, sleeping in a motel, $48,000 in debt, with a heart condition I couldn't afford to treat. The nightmare had no bottom. It just kept going down. 3 months since the dinner. 90 days of hell. I'd been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. Couldn't afford the motel anymore. Found parking lots where security didn't bother you. Truck stops with bathrooms where I could wash up. Ate once a day, usually dollar menu items. My health was deteriorating. Chest pains came and went. Dizzy spells. Exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. I was taking maybe a third of the medication I was supposed to. Rationing pills I bought with money I didn't have. Still doing rideshare when I could. When the car cooperated. When I had enough gas money. But the work was inconsistent and barely covered fuel costs. I'd stopped checking my bank account. Stopped counting the debt. What was the point? Then Uncle Leonard called. Dad's younger brother, 60 years old, lived 2 hours away, in a small town. I'd only visited a handful of times. Leonard had never been close with the family. Some old disagreement nobody talked about. But he'd always been kind to me at family gatherings. Andrew, I heard about the situation with your parents. With Travis and Diane. I was sitting in my car in a Walmart parking lot, trying to decide if I could afford to eat that day. What about it? I don't believe what they're saying about you. I know you, kid. You're not capable of what they're claiming. Something in my chest loosened. Someone believed me. Thank you. Come stay with me for a while. Get back on your feet. I've got a spare room. Food in the fridge. Let me help. I was suspicious. Had to be. Everyone who'd offered help had been setting a trap. Why? Because you're family. Because what they're doing to you is wrong. He paused. Because I've got some money set aside. I can loan you $20,000. Help you get stable again. $20,000. I could pay off the most pressing debts. Get proper medication. Start over. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come, please. I drove to Leonard's house that afternoon. Used the last of my gas money to get there. The house was modest. A small ranch style in a town of maybe 5,000 people. Leonard met me at the door. Gave me a hug that I couldn't quite return. You look rough, Andrew. Yeah. He showed me the spare room. Clean sheets, a real bed, a window that looked out on a backyard with trees. It looked like paradise. That first night, I slept for 12 hours straight. Actually slept. Woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. Leonard fed me. Real food. Eggs and bacon and toast and orange juice. I tried not to cry over breakfast. Take your time, he said. Get your strength back. We'll figure out the next steps. For a week, things felt almost normal. I ate 3 meals a day. Took showers that lasted longer than 3 minutes. Slept in a bed. Let my body start to heal. Leonard listened to my story. The whole story. Nodded in the right places, asked good questions, seemed genuinely sympathetic. He introduced me to his friend Walter, who owned a small accounting firm in the next town over. Walter offered me a job. Entry-level position, but it was legitimate work. $22 an hour. Benefits after 90 days. Start date in 1 week. I couldn't believe it. Actual hope. A path forward. I applied for jobs online using Leonard's address. Got 2 interview requests that week. My first interviews in months. See? Leonard said. Things are looking up. They were. For the first time in 3 months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could survive this. Then, on the 6th day, I overheard a phone conversation. I'd gotten up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. Leonard was in his den, door cracked open, voice low. He completely bought it. The job offer, everything. He thinks I'm helping him. I froze in the hallway. The loan papers are ready. He'll sign them tomorrow, thinking they're just standard paperwork. Leonard chuckled. Your plan worked perfectly, Travis. He's desperate enough to sign anything. My blood turned to ice. Once he signs, we've got written confession of the embezzlement. His signature admitting to moving client funds. Combined with Walter's sting operation when Andrew shows up for his first day, you'll have everything you need. Leonard listened for a moment then. 30,000 was plenty. Worth it to make sure he goes to jail and can never contest anything. Your parents will never doubt you again. I backed away from the door slowly, quietly, back to the guest room, where I'd felt safe for 6 days. It was all fake. The concern, the help, the job, all of it designed to get me to sign documents that would look like confessions, to walk into a trap that would end with handcuffs. I packed my few belongings in silence, took nothing Leonard had given me. Not the food from the kitchen, not the toiletries from the bathroom, nothing. I left in the middle of the night, drove away with a quarter tank of gas and $11 in my pocket. My phone rang as the sun came up. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but some desperate part of me hoped. Andrew. Leonard called. He said you stole money from him. Cash and family heirlooms. He's filing a police report. Mom, it's not true. Leonard was setting me up. Travis paid him to. Enough. Enough of the lies and the excuses and the blaming everyone else. Her voice was steel. Your uncle tried to help you, and you robbed him. I don't know who you are anymore. Mom, please, don't contact us again. You're not welcome in this family. You're not our son. The line went dead. I sat in my car in a rest stop parking lot as the sun rose over the highway. Completely alone. More alone than I'd ever been in my life. Everyone I'd ever loved or trusted had either betrayed me or believed the lies. I had nowhere to go. No one to call. Nothing left to hope for. The nightmare wasn't ending. It was consuming me. 4 months since the dinner. 16 weeks of surviving day by day. I'd been living in my car in various parking lots around the city. Walmart, shopping centers, anywhere security wouldn't bother you if you moved every few nights. 24-hour fitness club parking lots were good. Blend in with the early morning crowd. I was skeletal now. Hollow-eyed and shaky. Made just enough from rideshare to buy gas and the occasional meal. My phone service was disconnected. Couldn't afford the bill. Used public Wi-Fi when I could find it. My mental state was fragile. Months of psychological warfare had fractured something fundamental. I didn't trust anyone. Jumped at sudden noises. Had panic attacks in the middle of the night. One morning I was asleep in my car in a shopping center parking lot when someone knocked on my window. Police. License and registration. I handed them over with shaking hands. The officer looked at my license, then at his partner. Something changed in their expressions. Andrew Thomas. Yes. Step out of the vehicle, please. What's this about? You're under arrest. They handcuffed me right there in the parking lot. Miranda rights read, while curious shoppers watched. The humiliation was complete. At the police station, they explained the charges: embezzlement, fraud, theft, based on evidence provided by Travis and Diane. The fabricated bank statements, the forged signatures, the fake offshore accounts. Combined with Greg's testimony and Leonard's claims that I'd stolen from him, they had what looked like an overwhelming case. Bail was set at $50,000. I had $37 to my name. A public defender was assigned. Young woman named Maria, overworked and carrying about 60 active cases. She looked at mine for maybe 10 minutes. "The evidence looks pretty bad," she said. "They're offering a plea deal. Plead guilty to reduced charges. Serve 2 years. Avoid trial. I'm innocent. Everything is forged. Everyone says that." She didn't look up from her notes. "I'll look into it, but you should prepare yourself. If this goes to trial and you lose, you're looking at 8 to 10 years. I was placed in county jail. General population. The absolute worst experience of my life. Constant noise, no privacy, surrounded by actual criminals. I kept to myself, didn't make eye contact, tried to become invisible. 2 weeks in, things got worse. Maria came to visit with bad news. My parents had filed for a restraining order, based on Leonard's claims and a statement from Diane that I'd threatened her during a phone call that never happened. The restraining order meant I legally couldn't contact my parents or come within 500 feet of them. "This destroys any chance you had of reconciling with them," Maria said. "If they were going to help you or believe your side, they can't now." That afternoon, I had another visitor, Diane. She walked into the visiting room looking perfectly put together. Expensive suit, flawless makeup, the picture of a successful professional. "Andrew." She sat across from me, the plexiglass barrier between us. "You look awful. What do you want?" "To help. Please, just take the plea deal. 2 years will go by quickly. Fighting this means 10 years if you lose at trial." She was performing. Knew the visits were recorded and monitored, building her image as the concerned sister trying to help her troubled brother. She leaned closer, voice dropping to barely a whisper. "While you're in here, we're erasing everything. Every text, every email, every bank transfer. By the time you get out, there'll be nothing left to prove. Good luck with your conspiracy theories." She stood, smiled for the camera. "I hope you make the right choice. We all love you." She left. Her perfume lingered. Maria came back the next day with more bad news. The district attorney was no longer offering the plea deal. Someone, probably Travis, had provided additional evidence. More forged documents showing a pattern of fraud going back years. They wanted to make an example of me. Trial was set for 6 weeks out. Without expert witnesses, forensic accountants, and private investigators, you'll likely be convicted, Maria said. That costs money. A lot of money. Money you don't have. She was right. From jail, I had zero ability to investigate, gather evidence, or fight back. I was completely trapped. That night in my cell, I hit absolute bottom, lower than I'd thought possible. I was looking at years in prison for crimes I didn't commit. My siblings would inherit everything. My reputation was destroyed forever. Even if I somehow proved my innocence eventually, I'd be a convicted felon. Life as I knew it was over. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the jail at night. Thought about just giving up, taking the plea, accepting that they'd won. 6 weeks until trial. 6 weeks to somehow find a miracle. I didn't believe in miracles anymore. 3 weeks in jail. Trial in 3 weeks. I'd given up. Accepted that I'd probably spend the next 10 years in prison. Maybe more. There was no way out. No cavalry coming. No last-minute rescue. Then Greg came to visit. I almost refused to see him. The man who'd started this avalanche. But something made me accept. He looked worse than I felt. Gaunt. Dark circles under his eyes. He sat down across from me and immediately started crying. I can't do this anymore. I can't let you go to prison. Little late for that. I know what I did. But I swear, Andrew, I thought it was just business sabotage. Travis said you were getting a huge inheritance, that you'd be fine. I didn't know they were planning to destroy your entire life. You took $50,000 to betray me. I did. and I'll regret it forever. But I kept everything. He pulled out his phone, showed me through the plexiglass. Every text with Travis, every email with Diane, every payment record, every instruction they gave me about which clients to target. My heart started pounding. I recorded conversations too. I was covering myself in case they tried to betray me. I've got Travis explaining the whole plan. Diane laughing about how you'd never prove the embezzlement was fake. Leonard talking about the setup. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Because I'm a coward. Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to admit what I'd done. He wiped his eyes. But I can't sleep. Can't eat. I watched them arrest you on the news, and I knew I was going to hell if I let this continue. He gave everything to Maria. She brought in the district attorney. The evidence was devastating. Text messages where Travis laid out the plan. Destroy his business. Poison his reputation. Set him up for crimes he didn't commit. Emails where Diane discussed timing. Wait until he's desperate enough that nobody will believe him. Recorded calls where Leonard detailed the sting operation. Forensic accountants analyzed the embezzlement documents, found the digital forgeries, traced the fake offshore accounts to shell companies registered in Delaware by Travis. Bank statements showed the payment trail. $50,000 to Greg, $30,000 to Leonard, $20,000 to Samantha. Within 48 hours, all charges against me were dropped. I walked out of jail after 25 days. The sunlight hurt my eyes. I was weak, traumatized, but free. Maria connected me with a civil attorney named Robert. He took my case on contingency. This is the most clear-cut case of conspiracy and fraud I've ever seen. We're going to bury them. But first, I needed to talk to my parents. Robert came with me. Brought printed evidence. Bank records. Text messages. Audio recordings. We drove to their house. The same house where this nightmare began 4 months earlier. Dad answered the door. Started to close it when he saw me. You have a restraining order. That was based on lies. Robert interrupted. Mr. Benjamin, Mrs. Patricia, you need to hear this. Right now, we sat in their living room. The same room where they'd told me I was getting nothing. Robert played the recordings. Travis's voice. Mom and Dad will never believe him. We've spent years building our credibility. Diane's voice. He'll wish he'd just taken the deal. By the time we're done, he'll be destroyed. Leonard's voice. 30,000 was plenty to make sure he goes to jail. Mom's hands were shaking. Dad's face went pale. This can't be real. Mom whispered. Robert showed them the bank statements, the payments, the paper trail, Greg's testimony, the forensic analysis of the forged documents. Your other children orchestrated a months-long conspiracy to destroy Andrew's life, Robert said. They committed fraud, forgery, bribery, and conspiracy. They destroyed his business, his relationships, his reputation, and nearly sent him to prison for crimes he didn't commit, all to ensure he didn't get any inheritance. Mom started sobbing. Dad just stared at the documents. We didn't know, Dad said. We thought. They said he was unstable. They showed us things. We believed them. I tried to tell you, I said quietly. You wouldn't listen. Oh God, Andrew. Mom looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time in months. Saw how thin I was. How hollow-eyed. How broken. What did we do to you? You chose them over me. We didn't know. You should have known. You should have believed me. The district attorney filed criminal charges against Travis and Diane. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Forgery. Filing false police reports. They were arrested at their homes. Perp walks on the evening news. Leonard was charged as an accomplice. Greg got reduced charges in exchange for testimony. The trial was straightforward. The evidence was overwhelming. Travis and Diane tried to lawyer up, but nothing could overcome the recordings of them planning my destruction. Both got 3 to 5 years in prison. Lost their professional licenses. Their reputations were destroyed in their communities. Everything they'd tried to do to me, they'd done to themselves. My civil lawsuit was even more successful. The jury awarded me $1.2 million in damages, combined. Travis and Diane were forced to sell everything. Their homes, their cars, their investments. Greg settled for $150,000. Leonard settled for $75,000. Samantha returned the $20,000 Diane had paid her, plus interest. I suddenly had money. Real money. Enough to pay off every debt and still have capital left over. But the money didn't fix everything. My parents tried to reconcile, revised their will immediately. Everything to me now. Travis and Diane were completely disinherited. They wanted to sell their house, downsize, give me money to rebuild. I don't want your money, I told them. I never wanted your money. I wanted you to believe me, to trust me, to be my parents. We failed you, Dad said. We're so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 4 months of my life. Sorry doesn't undo the trauma. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that when I needed you most, you chose them. Our relationship began to heal, slowly, but it would never be what it was. That trust, once broken, couldn't be fully repaired. I used the settlement money to start a new business, a consulting firm that helps fraud victims, people who've been manipulated, gaslighted, destroyed by people they trusted. I understand them in ways most lawyers and consultants never could. The media covered the story extensively. Financial consultant nearly destroyed by family conspiracy, ultimately vindicated. Instead of shame, I became known as a survivor, someone who'd endured psychological warfare and came out the other side. Former clients who'd abandoned me reached out, apologized. Some wanted to work with me again. I was selective about who I accepted. Derek, my former best friend, called. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. You should have, but you didn't. That showed me who you are. Can we try again? Rebuild the friendship? Maybe. Eventually. But it'll never be the same. Samantha tried to reconcile too. Showed up at my new office with tears and apologies. I was wrong. I was stupid. Diane manipulated me, and I fell for it. You chose money over me when I needed you most. I know. I'll regret it forever. So will I. I didn't take her back. Couldn't. The betrayal cut too deep. 6 months after being released from jail, I was in a better place. Physically healed, mentally scarred but functional, financially stable, building a new life from the ashes of the old one. I met someone new, Sarah, a therapist who specialized in trauma. She knew my whole story before our first date. Stayed anyway. We took things slow. I had trust issues that might never fully heal, but she was patient. I set boundaries with my family, saw my parents occasionally, supervised visits, like they were the ones who'd done something wrong. In a way, they had. Travis and Diane served their sentences. I didn't visit them in prison, didn't respond to their letters. They'd wanted to destroy me to get money. Instead, they destroyed themselves. Standing in my new office one day, I looked at a framed photo on my desk. Me, on the day I left jail. Gaunt, haunted, broken. I kept it as a reminder. That dinner where Mom told me I'd get nothing. She was right, in a way. I got nothing from them, but I got everything I needed from myself. I got my dignity back. I got justice. I got a life built on truth, not lies. My siblings wanted to bury me. Instead, they buried themselves. And that nightmare that began when I stood up from that table, it was finally over. I learned that blood doesn't mean loyalty. Family is what you choose, not just who you're born to. The people who loved me conditionally abandoned me. The people who truly cared stayed or came back. Money brings out truth. When my parents' inheritance was at stake, my siblings showed their real character. They were willing to destroy me completely for a bigger piece of the pie. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what really matters. I lost my business, my savings, my relationships, my freedom, my health. But I found my strength. I found out who I really was when everything was stripped away. I'm not the same person who sat at that dinner table 4 months ago. That person was naive, believed the best in people, trusted too easily. The person I am now is harder, wiser, more careful, but also more authentic. I know who I am. I know what I can survive. And I know the difference between people who love you and people who use you. My parents' estate is still there, still worth roughly $2 million. It'll all come to me someday. But honestly, I don't want it. That money is tainted now. Represents everything wrong with my family. Maybe I'll donate it. Set up a fund for fraud victims. Turn something poisonous into something helpful. Or maybe I'll accept it. Not because I need it, but because I earned it. Not through birthright, but through surviving hell and coming out the other side. Either way, I won. Not because I got money or revenge. I won because I'm still here. Still standing. Still fighting. Still building a life worth living. My siblings tried to break me. They failed. And that's the best victory of all. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Maybe not to this extreme, but that moment when someone you loved chose money or status or themselves over you. How did you survive it? How did you rebuild? Drop your stories in the comments below. Sometimes it helps to know we're not alone in this, that other people have faced betrayal and made it through. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about survival, justice, and overcoming impossible odds. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they can survive anything. Thank you for listening to my story, for believing me when so many others didn't, for being here at the end of this nightmare. I hope you never face what I faced, but if you do, remember this: you're stronger than you know. You can survive more than you think. And sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find out who you really are. Take care of yourselves, trust carefully, and remember that the people who truly love you will believe you when it matters most.